guys. So today's video I'm going to be talking about the opening day of Downtown Disney, which was back on July 9th, which is almost 3 weeks ago. And if you guys saw my Instagram posts about this, I was like, yeah, I made a little video. I'm gonna get it together. I'm gonna post it as soon as possible. And my thought was I was gonna get it up that night or maybe the next day. But as time went on, I found my opinions about Downtown Disney like changing slightly, and I was like, well, let me wait and see how this plays out. I'm getting new information and whatever, so I'll wait a little while to post the video. And before I knew it, 3 weeks went by and here we are. This is actually my second time trying to record this video. The first time was about 20 minutes ago, and I recorded myself talking for like 20 minutes, and I realized I was getting like a little more negative than I intended to. So I figured I would just stop and start over, because even though I said on Instagram that I probably wouldn't be going back to Downtown Disney, my opinion of it was mostly positive. Like, everyone that I saw was doing a good job of like wearing their masks and mostly keeping their distance. I'll explain a little bit of that in a second, but everyone had their masks on. I think I saw maybe one person where it was hanging on down under their nose. People who were eating and drinking were like going off to the side, or they were like seated at tables that were like spaced apart. They had hand sanitizer stations around. They had hand washing stations. It was operating at reduced capacity, and I think that even though it was a lot less crowded than usual, my main complaint was that the flow of traffic still, I mean, like, this is like something that normally happens at Downtown Disney and at Disneyland. It doesn't really matter how many people are in the parks or at Downtown Disney. It still tends to bottleneck in certain places. Like, you know what I'm talking about, like inside the parks, right at the entrance of Adventureland is a place that it always happens. At Downtown Disney though, right in front of World of Disney, that is where it was the most crowded when I was there. And I think even under normal circumstances, when everything's fully open, the traffic tends to kind of slow down in that area. But right now they have a socially distanced line outside of World of Disney because they're only letting a certain number of people in at a time. So in addition to like the walking pedestrian people, there's like a roped off area for the people who are standing in line, which cuts your path down even further. I think they could probably, actually, you know what, I don't know. I was gonna say they could improve this by taking out some of the kiosks along the side, but I'm not sure if some of those are stationary. I think some of them are on wheels. Like the food carts might be on wheels and movable, but some of them might be built into the ground. I don't know. If you've been there, if you are more familiar with this than I am, you can tell me. But I think that if they took some of those out, and it would widen the path more and make it easier to socially distance over there. But yeah, right now that is kind of a problem area. But other than that, honestly, it was pretty open. It was easy to avoid people. I've noticed though that being that I go by myself a lot, that just tends to make it a lot easier to like navigate through crowds and like kind of stay away from people and stay in my personal bubble. Again, like even under normal circumstances, like if I'm trying to navigate through the parks and it's crowded, it's easy to kind of like spot openings in the crowds and like get around people. But if I'm like with somebody, I'm always like worried they're gonna get left behind, or we're gonna get separated, or like, you know, is that space big enough for both of us to get through? I don't know. I'm explaining this because I feel like a lot of people don't like going to Disneyland by themselves, which if you don't, you're missing out. But one advantage of going to Disneyland by yourself is it's easier to make it around the park faster, and then it's also an advantage in social distancing because it's easier to stay away from people. So what else? I mean, I guess I want to tell you about the parking because this confused me. You're parking in the Simba parking lot, which is normally a cast member parking lot. It's off of Catella, and it's like right after the Paradise Pier Hotel. When I first got there, this was opening day, so it was like more crowded than it has been, I think. But when I first got there, it was around 12:30, 1 o'clock, and the parking lot was actually full. There was like one of those neon signs outside saying it was full. And I didn't really know what to do at that point, so I just did a lap around the block, and I came back and it was still full, so I did another lap. And I think the second time I came back was when it opened back up again. So you park in that lot and you walk a little pathway by the Paradise Pier Hotel. The entrance to Downtown Disney is the one by the Disneyland Hotel where the little Sorcerer Mickey hat is. It's not little, it's big, but the Sorcerer Mickey hat. And in that area is where all of the security and the temperature checks is going to be. So they check your temperature with a little thingy on your forehead, which if you are wearing a hat, they're going to ask you to move it or remove it so they can access your forehead, which was a problem to me because I was in between two hair color processes, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So when I color my hair at home, I usually do bleach one day and then I'll wait like a couple of days until I want to wash my hair again, and then I'll put the color on. So in those in between days, my hair looks ridiculous. Like it'll be like bleached here and then a little bit of bleach here and then like color here, but it's like faded color. It's not a good look. It looks like an accident. And that's how I actually thought Downtown Disney was opening on Saturday. So I was like, oh, I'll color my hair before I go. But surprise, it opened on Thursday and I was like half bleached and didn't have time to put color on my hair. So I put a hat on, and the guy who took my temperature got to see it and probably thought I was having some kind of a problem. Anyway, so there's the temperature checks, and then there's a dog, a sniffy dog, which I've heard people referring to the dog like it's a new thing, but they've always had the dog at the Mickey and Friends or Pixar Pals parking structure where the bag check usually is. So I don't know, that's not new, but one tip that I will give you that I saw on social media, somebody, a family, I guess, you know, you're not supposed to pet or talk to the sniffy dog, but this family, someone in their party waved to the dog as they passed by, just kind of waved from afar, and that caught the dog's attention, which I guess that is, they consider it like change in behavior or something, which is considered some kind of alert toward that person. So the whole family got taken to the side and had to do like a separate security check. So I didn't know that, but now you know, don't wave to security dogs. And then after that, they have the bag check person, which is, I think it's exactly the same setup or very close to how it is under normal circumstances. But there's the table that you normally put your bag on. There's like a plexiglass that goes up in the middle, and the bottom is open. So they're going to ask you to just kind of hold your bag open under the open part. I think he might have had a stick that he poked around in there a little bit, and then he asked me to open my camera bag just to show him what was inside, and that was it. So once you're in Downtown Disney, a couple of other changes you'll see is there are hand sanitizer dispensers kind of distributed throughout the area. There's also a few hand washing stations, so if you need to full on wash your hands, which you probably should do, I would say at least once or twice while you're there. Honestly, if you plan to go into any of those stores like World of Disney where you're going to be touching stuff, wash your hands before and after you go in, so that way you're not taking anything into the store and you're not bringing anything out of it. I didn't actually go into World of Disney or into any of the buildings that day. That felt safer to me, just hanging out outside. And I actually even chose where I wanted to eat based on that, wanting to stay outside. I went to Asian Street Eats, which is kind of like, it's like a miniature building. It's not a food cart. It's bigger than a food cart, but it's not a full-on restaurant. It's like a tiny house of restaurants. I don't really know how to explain it. It's a little food window where you can get things. Is that really the best way I can explain it? I'll show it to you. How about that? I'll show you a video so you can see what I'm talking about. But I went here because for a couple of reasons. One is that it seemed like the most socially distanced restaurant because you're literally outside and the people give you your food in the little window. But another reason I went there was because it actually opened up. My annual pass expired January 1st, and I think they opened up in like February or somewhere around there. And the food looked amazing, and I really wanted to go back, like just to go to Downtown Disney to try their food. But then everything closed shortly after that. I mean, I guess not super shortly after that, but a little before I got the chance to go, everything closed. So I had decided that once it's opened back up again, that was gonna be the first place I wanted to eat. And I was definitely not disappointed. I got the scallion pancake wrap. which has like tofu and veggies inside. It normally comes with an aioli, which is dairy based, so if you're vegan you want to order it without that, but that's the only modification you need to make it vegan. So I highly recommend trying Asian street eats if you haven't been there yet, but based on what I've seen on Instagram, it seems like a lot of people are already on that bandwagon, but just in case you are late to the party like I was, go try them out. I also just realized that I am kind of going out of order because that was like the last thing I did before I left. I got my food to go. Well, obviously you can only get it to go, and I washed my hands at the hand washing station, and then I went and ate in my car, and then I left. But before I went to eat, I walked around on the Esplanade. I wanted to go see what was going on at the park gates. So at the entrance to Disneyland, they actually have this rope kind of at the same distance as like the monorail track. And I don't know if they've officially explained why that rope is there. I think it might be to kind of deter people from like hanging out right at the gates or like crowding or taking selfies or something like that. There definitely were still people taking selfies like at the rope. You could still get a picture of yourself with the front gates. Like I took one, but while I was taking my picture, someone else lined up behind me like 6 or more feet away, and then someone else lined up behind them. So it was pretty under control, and people were still keeping their distance and not crowding or anything like that. So I'm assuming that would be how things would work if the rope was down. I'm not 100% convinced that is why the rope is there. Also because there's no rope blocking off the California Adventure front gates. But I mean, I guess they figure people are maybe partial to Disneyland rather than poor DCA. But because you can get closer to the entrance of DCA, you can see that there are now plexiglass up in between where the cast member would be and where the guests like pass through. There's also plexiglass kind of blocking like the front gate. I mean, I'll show you the video so you can see what I'm talking about. So this kind of made me curious about like what is going on inside of the parks, because I mean, they were scheduled to open July 17th and then that got pushed back like, what was it, like a couple of weeks before they announced that it was getting pushed back indefinitely. So I wonder, I mean, they must have been pretty close to ready to open, if not completely ready. So I know we've seen, if you watched any Walt Disney World vlogs, you can see that they have a lot of plexiglass like in the queue areas and like the food service areas and stuff like that. So I wonder inside of Disneyland, like that's probably what it looks like. It's just nobody's in there. So another thing that I did while I was in the Esplanade is something that I've always wanted to do, but I've also always been putting it off, because when I'm in the Esplanade, like I'm in the mindset of like going into Disneyland. I'm not just hanging out. But on this day with the parks being closed, I had some time on my hands, so I decided I was going to go look for Tage's brick. And if you don't know who Tage is, that is one of the hosts of the DL Weekly podcast, which I've been listening to that podcast for probably 2 years now. And every once in a while they bring up the topic of Tage's brick. So if you don't know what the bricks are, there are bricks out in the Esplanade with people were able to personalize them. You could put your name, you could put a date, you could put some kind of Disney related symbol, and they're just all out there. I think they also had them at Walt Disney World, but they announced that they were going to be taking them out at Walt Disney World. I don't know if that has started yet. But as far as I know, the ones at Disneyland, they're not going to be removing. At least they haven't announced that yet. So yeah, I mean, I feel like one thing people ask me a lot about when they realize like how much I would go to Disneyland is like, don't you run out of stuff to do? Like, doesn't it get boring? You're just doing the same thing every time. And it's like, there's always something to do. I mean, there's still things in the park that I want to do that I haven't done yet. And this is one thing. Actually, I'll show you an example. This little golden book is about the little man of Disneyland, and he has a little house in a tree in Adventureland. And every time I'm in there, like I should say every time I'm not at the park, I think I'm gonna go visit the little man of Disneyland. And then when I am in the park, I am very easily distracted and I forget about him. So once I'm able to go back to Disneyland, I'm gonna go see what he's up to. I always forget what his name is. I had to go look it up. It's Patrick Begora, and he's a leprechaun. So if you didn't know, now you know. Anyway, I feel like this video is getting a little bit long, so I'm gonna wrap it up. But the last thing that I wanted to say is a little bit of a correction on my original game plan when it comes to Downtown Disney. When I posted about it on Instagram, I had said that I didn't see myself going back anytime soon. And it wasn't because I didn't feel safe, it was just because I didn't think it was necessary. And I had one of those moments where it's like, you know, you have an idea and you think that it's terrible, and then almost as quickly you decide that it's a great idea. I was like, so what am I gonna do? Just go to Downtown Disney and get takeout and then go home? And then I was like, light bulb, I could go to Downtown Disney and just get takeout and then go home. So I'm actually working on a new blog site that will probably launch within the next few days. It's related to Disney and mostly the Disney parks and Disney related travel and stuff like that. And obviously there's not a lot of new content that I can make from home, but, and here was my light bulb moment, like I could still do food reviews because while the parks are open, I never ate at Downtown Disney. Like I would, once I'm in the parks, that's where I want to stay. And I realize now that I think the food at Downtown Disney is probably at least twice as good as the food inside the parks. Definitely twice as good as the food inside of Disneyland. Maybe the food at DCA is comparable, but I mean, I think the best food on the resort property is gonna be at Downtown Disney. Anyway, I'm thinking that I might use some of this time within the next few weeks to do some more food reviews and post them on my blog. And I don't know, maybe I'll do some socially distanced laps around the Esplanade because I've been spending a lot of time sitting on my couch. So yeah, if and when that happens, I will keep you posted. The blog site should be up. I keep pushing it back, but it should be up within the next week or possibly within the next couple of days. I think that's it for this video. If you had any questions or comments or thoughts or feelings or emotions or anything going on that you want to share with me, post those in the comments, and I will see you next time.
Then she met me at the college. Her friends play my songs and they been following me. Yeah, I don't like to do that much explaining and talking. Just know she had coffee with me. Yeah, I hear you like pizza and dancing. Love that is not that romantic. Yeah, I don't have no time for no antics. Fly one, smile for the cameras. Oh, they like me now. Go ahead, wipe me down. She don't got a man, cause he ain't lock it down. Hey, do you think of me when I'm not around? Jaw hit the ground when you walk around. Look like art. Look like art.